Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Kristen Marie, and I serve as AHOA's Education Manager. As the association continues to fuel hotels owners with resources, we are pleased to welcome back Tarun Kapoor from Kapoor & Kapoor Hospitality Consultants. In this session, he will cover the key aspects of the employee selection and will focus on effective applicant tracking systems. Before handing this over to Tarun, please note the following disclaimer. Q&A will be available at the end of conclusion of this presentation for any of your questions. Please type them into the question section on your screen. Take advantage of the opportunity to ask what is on your mind, and we will do our best to answer as many questions as possible. Today's presentation will also be available for viewing within 24 hours on our COVID-19 research page at ahoa.com. We're excited to have you all here today. So, Tarun, last time you made the case for being the employer of choice in your market. You used the metaphor of spokes in a bicycle wheel. Could you recap your thoughts about that?
Sure, thank you, and it's good to be back. Happy Monday. So, the spokes of the wheel. You know, when you ride a bicycle, you have two wheels, and each of those wheels have God knows how many spokes, and you typically need all those spokes to be firm and in place. If one is broken and you keep riding your bicycle, probably the next one's going to break pretty fast, and then the next, and then the next. And pretty soon the bicycle's going to be useless. So the metaphor really is to the extent that the spokes in the selection, in the employment process to become the employer of choice, there are many, many spokes that need to be taken care of. You don't just become the employer of choice because you pay the best, or because you have the best benefits, or because you are hiring a winner, or because you use technology. None of those things, or all of those things, are what it takes to really become the employer of choice. So today we're going to talk about our first spoke, and then next time we'll talk about the next spoke. And today's spoke is really dealing with the process of hiring right. And to hire right in today's day and age, we really have to think about how we hire and how we use technology. So my first sort of question to the audience is, do you have a payroll system? Well, yes, of course. So what kind of payroll system do you have? Does your payroll system come with the human resource information system, a platform that most payroll systems provide as a way to make their payroll service more competitive? So I would argue that when you pick your payroll system, you pick a system that has the most robust HRIS, or Human Resource Information System. These HRISs are reasonably competitive, and most major payroll companies, you've heard all the names, is over God knows how many hundreds of companies, but they all have very sophisticated platforms. So I think what you should look at in the platform is the platform seamless? Is the platform easy to use? Is the platform easy to use for the employee, for the applicant, for the potential employee? And is it easy to use for you and your staff and your management in terms of managing people? Otherwise, we are going to go back to the old personnel management, the old human resource management, which is very compliance focused. And I think in this day and age, to be the employer of choice, you have to do everything that compliance requires you to do, but then you have to do so much more. That was a long drawn answer to the bicycle metaphor, Kristen.
Yes. So you're saying hiring is the first step to becoming the employer choice. Why is this really important?
Well, first of all, hiring right means lower turnover. Now, it's very difficult to sort of make the connection to people is to say, how do I hire right and why would hiring right drop my turnover? We all do know that the more you turn over your employees, the higher your payroll cost is going to be. So think of it this way. If you hired me to come to your company to do a job in your company, doesn't matter what the job is, right? It's going to take me at least 2 weeks from the day I start, at least 2 weeks, if not longer, for me to become fairly proficient in the job the way you want me to do it at your hotel. So for those 2, 3, 4 weeks that I'm not proficient at the job, you're not getting 100% productivity out of me. I can't do as much as a seasoned employee can do, if that makes sense. So I think paying the most amount of effort in hiring right is critical. How do we hire right? So let's look at that. My first question to you, and some of these are rhetorical questions, but my first question is, if I walked into your hotel to the front desk and said, are you hiring? What answer would I get? It's a public relations exercise. You want to be the employer of choice. You should make me feel good when I walk up to the desk. But is that even a part of the job description of the desk clerk, of the guest service associate, to say you actually deal with applicants? So be polite to them, be nice to them. That's thought number one. Right? Two, in this day and age, if you're using an HRIS system, every HRIS system has a module called applicant tracking, or ATS, applicant tracking system. The applicant tracking system is where we can post jobs and where applicants from anywhere in the world can respond to those postings and they can fill their application. So what's my message here? Whether I come to your door and say, are you hiring? Or whether I go online and say, are you hiring? You have to make that hiring process welcoming and easy if you want to be looked at as a progressive and a good employer. So if you look at the application itself, the form, you can have a manual form at the front desk that you give the walk-in employees, or you can tell them go online. Now, almost every applicant that's coming to you at the hotel probably has one of these PDAs, smartphones. If they do, well, why don't you train your front desk to say, here, use this link, go on your PDA and go apply on your PDA. So you're not turning me away, you're not telling me you have jobs, you're not telling me you don't have jobs, but you're saying go apply on your PDA. If you apply on your PDA, the good thing is there's a record of the application. If you apply on a piece of paper, then I may lose the paper, and the paper may never make it to the manager who needs people. So that's thought number one. Make that application or make the applicant feel welcome, make the application easy access. And then in the application form itself, I'd suggest that you post most, if not all, of the line positions that you have at your hotel. And I would suggest you offer the candidate to say, check off all the positions that you are interested in. So that if I checked off a position, let's say to be a night auditor, or checked off a position, let's say to be a guest service associate, or checked off a position to be a guest room attendant, and I don't meet the qualifications of either of those positions, then you can possibly see if I meet the qualifications of some of the other positions I've checked off. Because you don't want to not have an applicant pool available to you. So I think the smartest companies are the companies that have a recruiting program, and the recruiting program is saying, I will always have a pool of qualified candidates in my file, and so that when I need people, I will then be able to call on them. So thought number one is creating this pool of qualified candidates. Now let's go back to the applicant tracking system. I suspect, and you've heard me say this many times before, you need good job descriptions, and the good job descriptions should describe what you expect the person to do in the job. The clearer the job description, the more detailed the job description, the more articulate the job description, the more effective the job description. The job description should also have what I call job specifications, or should also have the qualifications needed to do the job. Now, every job needs qualifications. Please don't fall into the trap of the warm body syndrome, which is I'll take anybody who walks in the door. Take the person who's qualified to do the job. And then from that pool of qualified candidates, you pick the most qualified, if not the best fit for your company. So it could be that your qualifications are pretty steep. It could be your qualifications are pretty easy. You may say for your guest room attendant that we need somebody who has a minimum of 6 months of experience. For your guest service associate, you may say we need somebody who has worked with our brand. So if I'm a Marriott hotel or a Hilton hotel or IHG hotel, do I have on-queue experience or do I have FOSSI experience? And you could say you need at least 6 months of having FOSSI experience. Now, why am I saying that? Because the more requirements you put in, the smaller the pool of qualified candidates, but the less time and effort you're going to spend in onboarding and training that candidate to become proficient at the job. So at least put the minimum amount of requirements that you want to have for your job. So if you put that in the applicant tracking system, which is you're going to say, here's the job description for a guest service associate. Here are the job requirements for a guest service associate. It's in the system. Now, let's say you own one hotel or you operate one hotel or you own 20 hotels and you operate 20 hotels. And let's say you're the human resource manager of the 20 hotels in the corporate office. But you don't want to be processing applications for guest service associates at 20 hotels. That's too cumbersome, too much of a waste of time. So what do? You set up the system. In the HRIS system, you define how many positions you're going to give the hotel for guest service associates. So let's say you can have 6 people, 6 guest service associates, and that's adequate for you to man your front desk 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. 6 qualified candidates. So now the way I would set it up in my company would be, I'd say to my management, it is your job, general manager, to maintain a full staff. And a full staff for you is 6 guest service associates. As soon as you drop to 5, Don't say it's okay because it's slow season, I'm not going to hire my six. No, I expect you to have a full team. So you then click the button on the applicant tracking system and post a position for guest service associate. If that position was set up by the corporate office or set up by me, I know it's set up right. It's the job description, it's the job specification. All the manager in the field is saying, I have one position vacant, so I'm posting the job. The minute the job is posted, these platforms are linked to employment search engines, whether it's monster.com, whether it's Indeed, whether it's ZipRecruiter, you name the search engines. Obviously, when I'm selecting my HRIS, my payroll system, I'm also looking at saying, which search engines are they linked to, and how much exposure is my position going to have in the marketplace? Obviously, you want all the top search engines. But a couple of other things that I would like you to think about. There are some positions that tend to be filled by, let's say, a lot of Hispanic staff. Well, is your applicant tracking system, is your HRIS connected to Hispanic search engines or not? If you do that, you're going to get people who tend to work in that field applying for the job. So now when they go online, they fill out the application. If it's a good applicant tracking system, it will screen the candidates for you. You may have 20, 30 applicants, but only 5 or 7 or 8 of them meet your minimum requirements, which is they have to have had 6 months of room cleaning. Doesn't matter if my brand or not, any brand, but if they've got that 6-month experience, or if this was a guest service associate, they've worked for 1 year at another Hilton hotel, they've got the on-queue experience. So this is a qualified candidate that meets the requirements. And now instead of looking at 30 applicants, I'm looking at 6. So now here's another thought. When these applications come in, how and when do you or your manager actually review the applications? Is it even a priority? So if I applied today for a job at your hotel, will you even look at my application today? And if you do, are you going to let me know that you looked at my application? Are you going to keep me engaged? Are you going to tell me you want to talk to me? Or are you just going to blow me off and say, let's see how many more applications come in and wait for another week? Because guess what? I'm living on an hourly wage and I don't have a week to wait. So if you don't capture me, if you don't engage me, if you don't show me you're professional and that you are timely, then shame on you. Then you're not never going to be the employer of choice. So instantly what I would suggest is having a policy in my hotel that says every time we post a position, we have to look at the applicants every day and we have to respond to the qualified applicants within 24 hours. Imagine that as a professional policy. That, hey, general manager, or hey, department head, you got to find time today to respond to every application that came in today in a professional manner. Or else the people are gone because there's jobs everywhere and they're going to leave and go to the next company or the next hotel that offers them the job. So now think about this. And now think about, you got my application, you're kind of intrigued with my application, I meet the minimum requirements. Now you want to capture me, you want to engage me. So imagine if you send me a text as opposed to an email, as opposed to a phone call. Why? Because how do today's youth communicate? Do they communicate via phone? Do they communicate via email? Or do they communicate via text? So imagine if your policy is you text the candidate back and say, I would like to meet with you. Are you available to come in tomorrow? Because now I know they're interested in me. Now I'm going to be there tomorrow at a mutually agreed upon a time. They're talking to me through emails. They're not leaving me they're talking to me through text. They're not leaving me emails and voicemails that I may not be checking. So think about how you want to communicate with the candidate. Now, imagine now if you've engaged me, you've got me intrigued. Through all of this, you are giving me access online where I am seeing the posting, I am seeing something about the company, I am seeing something about the hotel, and all of these things are what matter to me. Okay. So think about that. So think about now if I can link it to my website, and on the website or some other site where they can talk about the benefits that your company provides, however expansive they may be or limited they may be, but you typically don't even think about sharing that with applicants. This is a public relations exercise. This is a public relations exercise. Even if you interviewed me, and even if you didn't want me, didn't think I was right for your hotel, you still want me to leave wanting you. You still want me to leave wanting to work for you, because that's how the reputation of your hotel needs to be in the marketplace. So I've rambled for a very long time, Kristen.
Yes, and thank you. We love that you let our hoteliers know to me what they needed to hire right. And with hiring right, is there any technology that could make it easier? I know you talked about the applicant system and online, but is there any other way? We actually got a question that said, you talked about your front staff sending a link. Do you think it's appropriate to maybe have a QR code that they can just scan with their phone and it'll send them straight to the hiring link?
Brilliant. See, now you're talking about engaging today's youth. So instead of the front desk person who is probably busy, probably doing other things, the last thing they care about is dealing with this applicant, and this applicant may not come in dressed looking good, so they are even more sort of disengaged with that applicant. So the idea that you make it appealing, attractive, contemporary, and make me want to go in and fill out the application so I haven't wasted my time coming to you are all great steps. But let me suggest one more thought. Imagine if I was a guest checking into your hotel or inquiring about a rate or the services of your hotel. Well, you all know how to train your guest service associates, your guest service representatives, your front desk clerks. You all know how to train them to engage the customer, to make the customer feel that this hotel is a wonderful hotel and they'll have a wonderful experience at our hotel, right? Well, that same kind of exercise of selling has to be done with a potential candidate employee. the front desk clerk should say, hey, here's the QR code if you want to use that, or go use this link on your phone and sign up. But guess what? This company, this hotel, is owned by ABC Hotel Company. ABC Hotel Company has 6 hotels in this marketplace, and I have been working for this company now for 9 months, and this is a wonderful company to work for. Just stop and think about that. Why aren't we training our desk clerks to sell our hotel, to sell our company to potential employees who walk in? And same if I come online and fill out an application online, that appeal should be the same. That was a very good question, good comment.
Right. Yeah. We had another question come in too, and it says, you talk about a lot about external hiring, but what about internal hiring? And I don't mean promoting. I mean an employee already that works for you, but wants to move into a whole another area who we might be hiring for. How would you handle that?
So, when yours truly was graduating from college and starting their career, most every employer had an internal training and development program. Most every hotel had that. Most every chain had that. And somewhere along the way in the last few decades, that internal training and development has fallen by the wayside because it tends to be expensive. So the idea behind recruiting from within is wonderful. It does create a sense of loyalty. It does create a sense of appreciation, both from employee to employer and employer to employee. So I think it is phenomenal. The question that I think you have to ask yourself is, if I happen to know, Kristen, that you are working with me, and if I happen to know that you would like to move into sales or move into food and beverage or move into a different department, then the question is, how can I do your training and development without it costing us too much? That's the million-dollar question. So can we do your training and development? We can't tell you to train yourself. So if you want to switch from the front desk to sales and marketing, then we got to somehow allow you to do your training on sales and whatever sales platform you're using and whatever sales systems you're using while you're on the job being a guest service representative. And there lies the creativity. Can the management train Kristen without breaking the bank while Kristen is still performing a job at the hotel? And I think the answer is yes. That's a good question. The other thing, as you probably all have heard, many employers encourage their employees to bring friends and associates when we have vacancies. Some even provide incentives and say, if the employee that you brought in survives with us for 90 days, then on the 91st day, you'll get a $50 check for introducing us to this new employee. All of these programs, these incentive programs, are all the right thing to do for the grand scheme of things to become that employer of choice that we're talking about.
All right, great. And we have another last question before we wrap all this up. And they said, what do you think about hiring managers and talent recruiters? We have an HR manager that handles mostly a lot, but usually when pulling applications, she pulls all of them and then we have to sort through them. I know a lot of bigger hotel chains use hiring managers and talent recruiters. What do you think about them to actually get you the stars into your hotels?
So without a doubt, every one of my larger clients have a corporate human resource department, and with almost all of those human resource departments have dedicated talent recruiters. So yes, but the question is of economies of scale. If you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hotels, you probably can't afford a professional talent recruiter who's working uh, full time doing that. So what do? You use your human resource manager to do all the other activities along with talent recruiting. And that is okay because we have to make do with what we have to make do with the stage of our life of the business is. However, I think you can um, get the same benefit that a professional recruiter, talent recruiter can give you by making sure you have set up the infrastructure correctly. And what I mean by that is going back to my earlier point, do you have a properly written job description? Well, if you have a properly written job description, then that's what a talent recruiter is looking for to say that this person have the skills, the knowledge, and the abilities to do the job. And the second thing, have you defined for your company what those specifications, those qualifications are that you want in the candidate? What's a talent recruiter going to do? Determine if this person is qualified to do the job or not. So if you can't afford a talent recruiter to do that work for you, then you've got to create the infrastructure for your department heads and for your managers so they don't mix up and they don't screw up.
Great. So thank you, Tarun, for this part 2 and the hiring process. Thank you again, Tarun with Kapoor Hospitality Consultant. Formative webinar and for all members that joined us. Please tune in Monday, March 22nd at 3 p.m. for part 3, the employer of choice. It is all about selecting stars, the art of interviewing. Feel free to check out our events calendar on the AHOA website for future webinars and also find past webinars in our resource library. We hope you have a wonderful day and a wonderful Monday, and we hope you join us for our next webinar. Tarun, thank you. This has been a pleasure, as always.
Thank you, Kristen. You have a wonderful day. We'll talk to you in 2 weeks.
All right. See you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.